You've heard the stories barns full of forgotten treasures collecting dust for decades. But what happens when the treasure isn't just an old relic? What if, tucked away in a forgotten corner?
Imagine walking into a dark barn, pushing aside the cobwebs, and seeing a shape under a torn tarp. You pull it back, and there it is, a car so rare, so legendary, you thought it only existed in history books. These forgotten treasures have been discovered in fields, warehouses, even abandoned dealerships. But each one carries a story that will leave you breathless. Let's uncover the most insane sports cars people have ever found in barns. Number 10. 1968 Lamborghini Miura P400. Hidden away in a junkyard in southern Los Angeles, surrounded by forgotten Porsches and rusting relics, sat a car that most people believed had vanished from history. Under decades of dust was a 1968 Lamborghini Miura P400, production example 159. Finished originally in a striking Giallo Miura paint over a blue interior, it had not seen the open road for 46 years. The Miura wasn't just another exotic. It was the car that defined Lamborghini's legend, the world's first true supercar. But here it was, wasting away among scrap metal and broken parts, its paint faded, its spirit silent. Collectors had whispered about this car, but no one thought it would ever return. When it finally crossed the auction block, jaws dropped. Despite its years of abandonment, the car fetched $1.3 million, proving that even in neglect, legends hold their value. But if a Miura could hide in plain sight for half a century, what else might still be out there? And the next discovery wasn't Italian, it was British and linked forever to the world's most famous spy. Number 9. 1964 Aston Martin DB5. In a quiet garage, untouched for decades, sat a machine that carried more than just style. It carried legend. The 1964 Aston Martin DB5, forever immortalized as James Bond's car of choice, had been parked in 1980 and never moved again. For more than 30 years, it sat gathering dust, its silver curves dulled, its once roaring engine silent. The reasons were ordinary: an oil crisis, money struggles, and a broken routine. But the result was extraordinary. A piece of cinematic history left to slumber. When discovered, its odometer told the story best, just 36 miles added in more than 3 decades. Collectors couldn't believe it, a DB5 in such untouched condition? Even after years of neglect, it commanded $400,000 at auction, not just because it was rare, but because it was the car that made Bond, Bond. If one of the coolest cars ever built could be abandoned like yesterday's news, what else might be hiding in the shadows? The answer takes us to a Dutch warehouse where hundreds of classics were locked away, and inside, an unexpected Lamborghini waited its turn to be reborn.
Number 8. 1972 Lamborghini Espada. Deep inside a Dutch warehouse, stacked alongside Jaguars, Ferraris, and even a humble Opel, sat a forgotten Lamborghini with 4 seats but no audience. The 1972 Lamborghini Espada, once a symbol of daring Italian design, was locked away for decades as part of Ad Poundman's massive 230-car collection. For years, these cars remained unseen, hidden across 2 warehouses and even inside an old church. Dust clung to every curve, yet the Espada's unusual shape still stood out. With its sharp lines and low stance, it looked less like a family car and more like a spaceship that had landed and been forgotten. When rediscovered, the odometer revealed just 17,410 miles. Unrestored, dusty, and still wearing its scars of time, the Espada went under the hammer and shocked many by reaching nearly $120,000. Not bad for a car that once sat as nothing more than a shadow in a crowded barn. But while this Espada slept quietly in Europe, across the ocean, an American muscle car waited in silence. Its owner left for war, and when he returned, the car would never be the same. And that brings us to one of the most patriotic barn finds ever uncovered. Number 7, 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. On a quiet family farm covered by dust and silence sat a car built for speed but forgotten by time. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona was no ordinary muscle car. With its towering rear wing and aerodynamic nose cone, it was designed to dominate NASCAR. But this one had a different story. Its young owner drove it proudly until duty called. When he left for deployment in Vietnam, the car was parked. Years passed, life moved on, and the Daytona never returned to the road. It sat, sheltered but unused with its 440 Magnum V8 engine waiting for a chance to roar again. When the soldier came home, the car briefly saw daylight before a mechanical failure forced it back into storage. And there it remained, silent, for another 35 years. When rediscovered, it wasn't just a barn find. It was a time capsule carrying not only horsepower but history. A symbol of an era when cars were bold, loud, and unapologetically American. But while this Daytona slept under farm dust, across the country a very different machine was rotting. Not in a barn, but deep in the woods. And it was a Japanese supercar that should never have been left behind. Number 6, 1995 Acura NSX. In the middle of the Michigan woods, half buried by leaves and swallowed by rust, a Japanese icon lay forgotten. This wasn't just any car. It was the 1995 Acura NSX, Honda's legendary supercar, built to rival Ferrari and Porsche. But here, it looked nothing like a champion. Uncovered by a detailing crew, the NSX sat abandoned, with shattered glass, rotting interior, and vines creeping inside. Its once perfect lines were scarred by time. Yet beneath the decay was something unusual. A retrofitted 3.2-liter V6, an engine option that wasn't even available until 2 years later. Whoever left it there planned something special, then simply walked away. When seeing the car pulled from its woodland grave, it was haunting. This was a machine designed with help from Formula One legend Ayrton Senna, a car meant to be driven hard and admired everywhere. Instead, it was left to die in silence. But, as collectors know, legends never really die. The NSX was saved, cleaned, and given another chance. And if you think a rotting Japanese supercar is shocking, what about a Ferrari that was wrecked, burned, crushed by a hurricane, and still sold for millions? That's where our countdown takes us next.
Number 5, 1954 Ferrari 500 Mondial Spider. Few barn finds carry as much chaos and survival as this one. The 1954 Ferrari 500 Mondial Spider, built by Pininfarina, once raced under the hands of ex-Scuderia Ferrari driver Franco Cortese. Its life was full of danger, competition on the track, an engine swap in America, even a crash that left it scarred. But fate wasn't done with it yet. In 2004, Hurricane Charlie tore through Florida. The storm destroyed the barn where a collection of 20 Ferraris was stored, collapsing the roof onto the cars. The Mondial Spider was crushed, burned, and broken. To any casual eye, it was beyond saving. Yet collectors saw something else: history. Even in pieces, even after fire and hurricane, the Mondial was a survivor. When it finally went to auction, people expected it to struggle. Instead, bidding shot upward, and the battered Ferrari fetched an unbelievable $1.875 million. This car proved a truth every collector knows: condition may fade, but rarity never dies. But if a storm-damaged Ferrari can command millions, imagine what happens when a forgotten Corvette resurfaces in a field, one that once put America into supercar territory. And that's exactly what comes next. Number 4. 1990s Chevrolet Corvette C4 ZR1. Not all barn finds hide in barns. Some sit out in the open, exposed to rain, mud, and neglect, like this 1990s Chevrolet Corvette C4 ZR1. Once hailed as a game-changer, The ZR1 pushed America's sports car into true supercar territory. With a Lotus-designed V8 engine producing nearly 400 horsepower, it was built to take on Europe's best. But this one wasn't in a showroom. It was in a field in the UK, abandoned, weeds climbing over its tires, paint peeling under the weather. Most people would have dismissed it as scrap metal. That's when YouTuber Johnny Smith of The Late Break Show came across it. Pulling the tarp back revealed the legendary badge, still clinging to the hood. It was a shock, one of just a handful that had ever reached British soil. Against the odds, the ZR1 was revived, proving that even a car left to rot in the elements can be brought back to life. If a Corvette in a field can survive, what about a Ferrari body that was stripped, separated, and stored for decades? The next discovery is one of the strangest barn finds ever, a Ferrari without its heart. Number 3. 1963 Ferrari 250 GT/E body. Most barn finds are complete cars waiting to be uncovered. This one was different. What collectors stumbled upon wasn't a whole Ferrari, but the stripped remains of a legend. The 1963 Ferrari 250 GT/E body, one of just 954 built by Pininfarina, was separated from its chassis decades ago. In the late 1980s, the car's original body was removed to create a 250 GTO replica, leaving the shell behind. For 30 years, it sat in storage, hidden under dust, its engine gone, its seats ripped out, even the floor missing. By all accounts, it was nothing but a shell. But when it resurfaced, collectors still fought over it. Along with a few parts, the console, a vintage radio, and bits of trim, the battered Ferrari body fetched $34,100 at auction. Proof that even a fragment of Ferrari history can spark bidding wars. It was incomplete, hollow, and broken, but still irresistible. But while this Ferrari was scattered and skeletal, another car was whole and hiding across the world. A car so rare it was long believed to be a myth.
And when it finally appeared, it stunned the entire Ferrari community. Number 2. 1969 Ferrari 365 GTB4 Daytona Berlinetta alloy. Some barn finds feel unreal, like ghost stories whispered among collectors. The 1969 Ferrari 365 GTB4 Daytona Berlinetta alloy was one of them. Built by Scaglietti, it was the only road-going alloy-body Daytona ever created. For decades, no one knew if it still existed. The truth was stranger than fiction. Imported into Japan in 1971, the car was bought by Makoto Takai in 1979. Just a year later, it disappeared. Locked away in storage, it became a rumor, a legend collectors debated but couldn't prove. Some swore it had been destroyed. Others said it was still out there. After nearly 40 years in hiding, the alloy Daytona finally resurfaced. With only 22,611 miles on the clock, untouched since the early 80s, it was an automotive time capsule. When R.M. Sotheby's unveiled it, jaws dropped across the world. At auction in 2017, this one-off Ferrari made history, selling for an eye-watering $1.9 million. Proof that myths sometimes come true, and when they do, they carry a price no one can ignore. But if the Daytona was once thought lost forever, the car at number 1 is just as shocking because it was never even registered. And it may be the most mysterious barn find of them all. Number 1. 1981 BMW M1. In an Italian garage, hidden away just 1 year after it rolled off the factory floor, sat one of BMW's rarest creations, the 1981 BMW M1. Matching numbers, original tools, even factory luggage, yet it was never registered, never legally driven, and nearly forgotten. For 36 years, it sat in silence. Only 4,554 miles appeared on the odometer, proof that the car had barely lived before being locked away. Most people thought all M1s had been accounted for, but this one was different. It was intact, untouched, and waiting to be reborn. When it was rediscovered, BMW Classic in Munich stepped in to restore it. The result was stunning.
one of the cleanest, most complete examples of the M1 in existence. More than just a barn find, it became a crown jewel, likely the only M1 in history that had never officially hit the road. From Italian exotics to American muscle, from hurricane-crushed Ferraris to forgotten Japanese legends, these cars prove one truth: the world's barns, fields, and garages still hold secrets. And if these treasures can surface after decades, the question is, what's still out there waiting to be uncovered next?